Through their research, they learned that awareness was very high. About 93% of people believed that products were affected. There was a high degree of confusion and misperception. About 50% believed that jarred peanut butter was affected when no jars contained any ingredients to affect the peanut butter. There was about a 19% reported that they stopped eating peanut butter. And 1/3 of consumers conducted their own research on the internet to gather information because they were so confused about what the media was reporting.
So the National Peanut Board kind of approached this head on with their what they called resumption of consumption. And their goal was to reverse the slide in trust, confidence, and sales of peanut products. And their objective was to reach Americans directly and indirectly with accurate information about the safety of peanut products. They set a few measures for themselves to reach. They wanted to engage in at least 40,000 consumers in New York directly. They wanted to generate more than 50 million media impressions through New York events. And they wanted to reduce the number of consumers who said they had stopped purchasing, serving, and consuming peanut butter. They also wanted to reverse the slide in peanut butter sales. So in January 2009, they began their aggressive program to reach these goals. They used peanut farmers and their families to deliver clear, concise messages, which gave them a lot of authenticity and credibility because who knows better than the peanut farmers themselves. The key messages they wanted to send out were that major and national store brands of jarred peanut butter are not affected by the recall. America's peanut farmers care and condemn the actions of this single bad manufacturer, and to visit nationalpeanutboard.org for the latest information. They began their resumption of consumption by moving forward with a new branding campaign they called Peanuts Energy for the Good Life. And here we're going to show you one of their commercials.
Energy to survive your 37th consecutive game of Peanut Poo. Peanuts. Energy for the good life.
So basically the idea behind this campaign was that peanuts have a lot of benefits. They're not bad for you. This was one bad outbreak, one occurrence, but peanuts are like good for your body, good for energy, good for lots of things. So these are a few of their print ads they had. It says, a gluten-free ingredient that inspires spontaneous and very public displays of ecstasy. And then there's another one, click. Energy to see less of yourself. So kind of just, they targeted different people. Obviously the first ad was a mom. They had a lot of ads targeting parents and grandparents, and then also they had, there was one commercial they had where it was like energy to do your laundry in colors and whites. So it was like targeting young people who obviously, especially young boys who, exactly. So they also, in order to push out this campaign, they had a blog, and the blog kind of is very similar to the app that you all just downloaded. All they did was push out recipes for the most part. There's nothing very, intriguing about it unless you love to cook. So we kind of thought that wasn't the best way to go about it. And this is their website. Once again, we thought that they could do a lot better. It's extremely boring, very plain, very straightforward news. Like you could click a link on the side, which is not very interactive, and then it would just bring you to a news release or fun facts, but like they weren't even that interesting. So we thought it was very boring.
I feel like they worked a lot on their app more than they did their web information, and kind of focused more on that when they should have obviously contributed their energy to everything.
And their ads are really good. Where do they run their print ads?
I think it was mainly in like magazines, but
They used a lot of newspapers as well, like the New York Times and
a lot of prestigious companies. Like they didn't just put in like People magazine, because they knew that the people who needed to be educated on the crisis, those people were going to read Time magazine or USA Today or,
And actually, in the beginning of the crisis, the head of the National Peanut Board sent out a letter in the New York Times and things like that, apologizing for it. And I found a lot of their advertisements or media in general were in publications that only farmers would see, which kind of is not that great either. Like Peanut Farmers of America magazine and stuff like that. So. So now we have a question, and you can use your app to answer this. Do you think peanuts have a higher antioxidant capacity than green tea? True or false? There's like a fun facts section on the app if you wanna. That is correct. You get cookies.
Is it true? Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. I mean, it's,
that was too fast.
yeah.
What category do you look under?
It's in fun facts.
It's under fun facts under peanuts. You had to search for it a little bit, but
That's a good fact though, I had no idea.
I
Isn't
didn't
that
either.
interesting?
That's why I chose it. But let's be real. I mean, who's just gonna sit there on the fun facts section and be like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know that about peanuts. I mean,
But I feel like they always advertise green tea as having so many antioxidants, and
yeah.
what about the peanuts? Are you leaving them in the dark?
So with the salmonella recall still in the news, the National Peanut Board not only began reaching consumers, like Kelsey said, directly by traditional advertisements and print advertisements and such, but they also kind of gave themselves an edge by using social media as well. They used 4 social media platforms to do this: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Flickr. Today they have many more, but these are the 4 that they used in 2009. Facebook came along about a month and a half after the crisis was actually first addressed. At first we thought, okay, they're being a little bit lazy, they're not pushing their social media out as soon as the crisis hit, but you have to think, because it is crisis communication, they're more worried about actually addressing the issue rather than pushing a campaign on you. So we kind of had to take that into consideration when evaluating how fast they pushed to Facebook.
And two, keep in mind that in early 2009, Facebook had just recently opened up to the public outside of universities.
exactly.
So Facebook was not really where it is today, 3.5 years later. So.
And we noticed a lot that the Facebook and the Twitter as well, they were it was a lot more informative than interactive. I feel, just like you said, the interactive part of Facebook really started coming after it was open to the public. So it was definitely more informative with the recipes and the updates and whatnot. Like I said, Twitter was much of the same, except we would say that Twitter actually didn't really have as much responsiveness to the actual Facebook page. It included a lot of recipes as well. And while people did retweet them because they enjoyed the recipes, they didn't retweet back. And recently I actually tweeted them, but they still haven't tweeted me back yet. I'm sad about that. Kind of feel antisocial.
Are they actively tweeting these days though?
They are, every couple of days as opposed to every couple hours.
Okay.
It's just basically the same thing though. It's a lot of, hey, try this yummy peanut butter pie recipe, or, I mean,
So where would that fit in our one-way versus two-way discussion?
I would definitely say it's one way. I mean, and a lot, I did notice some consumers were like, oh, I greatly enjoyed this specific recipe, which was awesome. But, I'll say I looked on their Twitter, which I'll discuss this later. But I don't think that they actually inform the consumers as well as they should. It's, instead of keeping the campaign alive, it's more of just like, hey, try this recipe. I mean, that doesn't really target a bunch of people. I know I don't like to cook, so I wouldn't necessarily look on their Twitter for a yummy recipe.
Yes, the only positive thing I can say about them putting recipes on there is that because people connect peanuts to food and eating, I guess they're trying to remind people, if these are your favorite recipes, this is your favorite thing to eat, it happens to have peanuts in it, so i.e. it's not dangerous. So that could be the only connection, but they could be doing more, they could have done more with the social media platforms that they were using. And outside of their blog and their website, as well as Facebook and Twitter, they also used a Flickr account. And as I go into kind of the implementation of the campaign, the Flickr was used to actually post pictures of all the events that they implemented throughout the month of February and March. And YouTube was also used to show those commercials that Kelsey mentioned earlier. And different farmers, they showcase different farmers throughout, peanut farmers, throughout the campaign.